So let's just go ahead and begin. So welcome to Workamajig. This is going to be our Platinum Tips and Tricks webinar. We do these quite often. Today I'm going to cover some other areas that most likely wasn't covered in the last Platinum webinar or Platinum Tips and Tricks webinar that we did. Okay, there's a couple of little new features that I wanted to show you in this that may help you going forward. But I do wanted to start here in the help guide for those of you who are not familiar with this. This is a great way, this is a great resource just in case you have questions or maybe you're waiting to hear back from your account manager. You can log into our support guide, and actually you don't even have to log in. You can just type in support.workamajig.com and it'll bring you into this help guide. And the one thing that I do want to show you here is these videos and webinars. This is a great resource for you guys to be able to use. It's actually going through by section, and then we have lots of videos that you can pick from. The webinars that we have, we actually post those. So those are going to be listed here under the 2021 webinars. And then of course, if there's any upcoming webinars that you're interested in, I'm sure that's how you guys got here today. You guys can come in and use those as well. Okay, we will post this webinar probably in a couple of days. You'll just come here and you will find it under the past webinars that we've had. Okay, one thing I do want to mention, when you go back to this main page, you can just click Workamajig or the little jiggy face here. But what I wanted to show you was our frequently asked questions. A lot of questions are listed here, and they are separated by the different roles that we have. So again, if you guys are more accounting related, your role is accounting, then of course you'd go into the accounting. But what I do want to show you is the general FAQs. So we update this quite often, and there's lots of great information here. There's, how to clear your cache, or how to, upload a file. Lots of different things here. How do I change my login password? So this to me is a great resource that you guys can use if you guys want to learn a little bit more about Workamajig. And then also over here to the right, these are just going back to those different areas to be able to answer those questions. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you next was we have this, it's called Groupamajig. It's a way for you guys to ask questions to other Workamajig users. I'm not sure if a lot of you are familiar with that, but we have this community here. So what you do is you log in, you put in your user ID and password, and you can go ahead and enter in some questions. So maybe there's a new process that you guys are starting and you want to see if other agencies are doing it, and maybe you want to get feedback on how they do it. So again, it's just a great resource to use. You guys can post your questions and then people will respond back to you. All right. Next, I want to go into our platform here. So another thing is, if you didn't want to start a new browser for the help guide, you guys can actually do it from your personal settings. I can click into my personal settings option. I can go to more. I can go to open the help guide, and it's simply just going to open up a new tab for you. You don't have to necessarily just click open the new browser tab if you didn't want to. All right. The next thing I wanted to show you is we have this new feature in our project dashboards. So I'm going to just open up a project that I have here. And we have a new availability for you guys to be able to print certain things now. So if you come over to this little print box, we now have the ability to print custom fields. You can print your project descriptions, your project schedules. You guys can even print spec sheets now. We know that a lot of clients like to print the information about their projects, so we now give you the availability to select all those options. Now, when I go ahead and click print, it's going to open up this document, and then this is basically what it's going to look like. So this is available for you to even email out if you needed to. So there's that email option up here. You don't have to download it. You can just email it straight from the system, and it'll go out to whoever you email it to. All right, so that's one little new feature that we have that you may not have known about. The next thing I wanted to talk about was we now, in the past, when you officially closed a project, and what I mean by that is when you go over to the project settings and you go to the counting tab, we have this official close box. So there are procedures in our help guide that tell you how we recommend closing projects. It's a great resource to use. I do recommend you selecting this, or at least going through the process of closed. And so the new feature is, in the past, when you closed a project, the billing tab would be removed from the dashboard. But now you guys have the ability to change that going forward. So even though it may be an officially closed project, underneath the More button, let me go click here, go into System Settings. Oh, shoot, I apologize, wrong button. More. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. So now we have this show billing for closed projects. So going forward, when you officially close the project, this billing tab right here to the left is going to stay open for you. Okay, just another little tip about that. The next thing I wanted to show you is I just recently had a client ask me about this. So they had a whole bunch of screens open, and when they clicked into this transactions and ran the project transactions, they weren't seeing all of their fields. So another little tip that you guys can do, or a little trick, if you want to see everything on one full page, all you need to do is right click on your browser tab and click duplicate. Or duplicate, sorry. And you can actually run that whole transactions report on one full page. So again, this is just another little tip that you can use if you want to see more real estate and be able to see all of your columns on a report, or in this case, that particular screen that I clicked. And it works for most everything that you have. Again, it's just, right clicking on the browser tab. And then, of course, it would open up that for you. Another little tip here is you can see that we've got lots of little side panels open. You don't have to click these one by one. So clicking this little X box, if you come clear out to the far left and click, it will actually close all of those panels for you. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about is your schedules. We have the ability in our schedules to bring in what we call baseline start and baseline complete. So for those of you that are project managers and you want to get a true indication of what your original plan was versus what actually happened, then I would recommend pulling out baseline start and baseline complete. And to do that, you simply go into More and you scroll down to the bottom, go to System Settings. And then you would edit columns, and then you would look for baseline start, baseline complete. You would check mark those boxes, and then you could go to the display order and then put them, drag them up or down in the order that you want to see them from left to right on the grid. Okay, once you do that, you just hit done, and then you may need to refresh, and then those two columns will show up. Now, the way this works is you will want to add those in the very beginning before anybody puts any time to the project, before it's actually live. So you would come over here, don't mind mine was already started in this, but here you're going to say set baseline. Now watch what happens to those two columns when I hit set baseline. It will automatically populate the dates, and those will never move. So later on, as you guys are working your projects, you kind of want to see, again, what the plan was versus what actually happened. You now have that information right here for you. Okay. Also, if there's any questions that you guys might have, you're more than welcome to use the Q&A box. I will try to look at it from time to time. But again, this is just another feature that you guys can add, is the baseline start and baseline complete. All right, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the ability to mass update records. We have this throughout the entire system, and you guys can use it as long as you see a box next to the record. And what I mean by that is, if I come over here, I go to my views, I go to my projects, and then I want to look at all of my active projects. You're going to hit search. These are the boxes that I'm talking about. This could be for companies, clients, vendor invoices, anything that has a listing screen. You guys have the ability to mass update. All you need to do is click these little two boxes. So let's say that I wanted to mass close a lot of projects. Like this just happened last week. I had a client in there that had tons of old projects, and she wanted to finally just close everything out. So you can simply just check mark those projects, click update project fields, and then down here it says change close status. So once you do that, then this is what it's going to do. It's going to close all of the projects that you've check marked, and then it'll mark all of the transactions as closed, and you can decide what status code that's inactive that you wanted to put it in. Most clients probably have a closed status, and you could pick that. And then of course, anything that's marked as billed is going to use today's date or whatever date you click into the calendar and pick. All right. The one thing I do want to mention here is if you have a project that has unapproved time on it, the system will not close it for you. So you would need to go back to those projects, approve those timesheets, do whatever you got to do with those transactions, either mark them as billed, write them off, transfer them, whatever you got to do, and then you can come in and close that project. Okay. So that's just another little quick mass update. Like I said before, you can use this pretty much for any listing screen that we have. So I could come in here and look at companies and clients, same idea. So here again, having the ability to mass update. And of course, the fields that are available are going to be different depending on the listing screen that you're choosing. And we won't have everything, but we do have a few options here that you guys can be able to update. So, you know, maybe somebody left the company and you need to change the account manager now. So again, you could do that in mass instead of opening one by one. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. The next thing, another way for mass closing or mass updating is also on the billing page. So today billing. So for those of you who are in the billing and you have these worksheets available and you want to mass delete or mass update, you can come in here, same idea. You can check mark what you want to change. And then here you have the ability to mass approve. You can reassign, meaning you're going to change the account manager, and you can mass delete if you need to. So again, this is just another feature here if you guys didn't really realize that this was here. Also on a few of these screens, you guys can also, without having to close the report that you're in, you can simply change what you're viewing. Maybe I want to see all worksheets, or maybe ready for, ready to create invoices. You don't necessarily have to close out and go back in. You guys can actually click these carrots. So I do recommend anytime you see carrots on the page, click them and see what you guys can do with those. All right. Let's see. The next thing I wanted to bring up was a new feature that we recently added for those of you who are doing media and you have vendor invoices. So let me go into my client recent, bear with me. Let's see if we have it in here. Okay, let me go look, let me go get it for you. So on the vendor invoice, we've added the ability for you guys to add publications and stations right to the line of it. So let me just look for this time. So here is a vendor invoice that I used for media, but what I wanted to show you is the station and publication now. You guys now have the ability to add these right on the line so that you know who because even though we might have a vendor here, the publication or the station could be different than the vendor name itself. So we give you now the ability to be able to add that right onto the line. And in order for you to do that, you're going to go under the More button, go under System Settings. You'll just click into Edit Columns. And then down here, where is it? Down here on the bottom, station and publication. And again, you just go back up to the top, go into display order, put it in the order that you want to see it from left to right, and then you just refresh your page. All right, so that's another new feature that we just recently added that I thought was kind of neat. The next thing I wanted to talk about was your timesheet, your My Time page. If those of you haven't realized, when you go to your timesheet, you now see different colors, and the colors represent certain things. So if you hover over those hours that you've entered in, so for example, this is green. So if I hover over it, it's letting me know that that time has been approved. There's also, when you hover over the black, those are unsubmitted time. Let me go over this one. There you go. So black means unsubmitted, green means approved, and we also have the ability for you to see the rejected items. So let me come in here. And anything in red means it's been rejected. All right. So again, just kind of watching those colors, making sure that you're understanding what you're seeing. The other thing too is I wanted to make mention of this because I know this tends to happen a lot with people. When you're entering time from this grid, you need to make sure that before you start putting in a whole bunch of time entries, that you're allowing the system to save the entry. And what I mean by that is it's actually going to go through certain colors when you go, when you do your time. So if I come in here, I'm going to pick my project. Let's do, you pick your task. Let's see if I got one that's not completed. And then of course you would put your hours, but I want you to see what happens to the colors, and you can see how it saves. So once I click off of that, you can see that it went blue, green, white. That is letting you know that it has been saved. So I do recommend when you guys are using the screen to make sure it saves. I would hate for you guys to keep going through a bunch of time entries and then half of them not saving. So again, that's just a little tip, kind of keep an eye on that you guys are making sure that you're saving all of your lines as you're entering your time entries. All right. Another feature I wanted to show was your custom menus that you guys can create for different security groups. Now, I already created one, and I'm going to actually show you how to do that. So if I go to my, oops, let me come back here to my main menu. Let's see if we can get this to show up. Okay, let me try this again. Let me just log out. Let's see if we can get this to work. There we go. All right, so what I did is I created a custom menu just for myself. And of course, most likely this would be for an entire security group. Maybe there's certain functions that they only need to see, and you can customize this just by pulling the apps out that you want them to be able to use. So if you, I'm going to show you how to set it up in just a minute. For those of you who need to go back to the default, so let's say that I needed to do some system changes, but I don't have it as a normal app. So what I can do down here on the bottom is I can say show all apps, and it brings me back to the default menu. And then at that point, I can come in here and go in and do what I need to do. Of course, as long as you have the rights to be able to do that. So to create custom menus, you must have the ability to go into the Admin Manager app. And then over here, down here on the bottom, so right now I'm under System Setup, Account Information, and I'm on Custom Menus. Once I click into that, you're going to see all of your different security groups. This is the one I created for myself. And you can see that I have all of these options selected. The way you change this is you just simply click the plus sign. You're going to say add items, and maybe I want the Today Managers page on that, and you can scroll down and just pick what options you want to give those groups. So I can just say, yep, I want those new ones. And actually it's going to auto save for you, but in order for the person to be able to see those changes, they need to log out and log back in. So most likely I won't see this when I go back to my page because I'd have to log out and log back in again. And of course, if you make a mistake, it's very easy to change. You can just simply come in here, delete, and just remember that once you've deleted something, there's no bringing it back. And that holds true with anything in our system. When you delete something, we always ask, are you sure you want to delete? So please make sure that you really want to delete something, okay? Another new option that we added that I'm not sure a lot of people realize, but now we have the ability to run your system logs if you have access to it. So this is what I like to call our tattletale log. So here I can run the system log. I can run log month to date or my entire log and put in a custom range. And what this does is it actually lets me know what's going on with my system. So maybe somebody deleted something. So I can come in here and say, well, maybe somebody deleted a project and I wanted to see who did it. I could come in here, hit search, and of course it would give me that information. Let's see what else we have for deleted. Okay, maybe I haven't deleted something. All right, let me hit delete. And we're going to hit search. There we go. All right, so this is just basically letting you know what's going on with your system. Maybe there was a setting changed on something, or somebody changed a conversation. You can see some activities that happened along the way. This is just a log letting you know the date, the time, and the person who did it. So I think this is a great resource for those people who are not sure how things are getting changed in their system. This is just a way for you to know that. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is our notes. A lot of people don't realize that we have this little notes tab, and actually it shows up under the Everyone app if you just have the whole app out. But here, this is also another a little notepad that you guys can use. There's one set for company and there's one set for personal. So here you may use this for, company extensions, for phone numbers, or important information that the staff needs to know about, and they can quickly come here and everybody will have access to it. Same thing, maybe you have a PTO, there's a form that needs to be filled out and you guys want certain people to fill those out. You can add this and this would be available company-wide to everybody who has the Notes app. For personal stuff, you could simply click into here. Maybe there's certain procedures that you want to remind yourself about. These are just personal notes that you have access to, like here, conversations, or maybe here with the service rate sheets. Again, these are just personal notes that you want to keep on your system that may be helpful for you. All right, so that's here as well. And I guess the last thing I will talk about, since I just saw this here, is the ability to link multiple projects onto a conversation. So the way that works is if I click this plus sign, I can go to the conversation, and let me just type in when you create it, you're going to create it from any plus sign and then click conversation. And then what I want to make sure is I uncomplete the box and then I select a company. If this is related to, you need to pick at least one company to start with. And then what I can do is save. Once I save, I now have this connections box. This allows me to link. So let's just say, goodness, can't spell today. All right. And let's say I don't want to keep opening up several projects to do this same note. What I can do is click into the pencil. Down here on the bottom, I have another plus icon. And then there's a drop-down menu. And you can do this with several different options here. So in this case, you could do it with contacts. Maybe there's several contacts you want to add this little conversation to. In this case, I want it available for multiple projects. So I would select the type as a project, and then I would come in here and say, well, I want to link it. Let's try, see, and see what we can pull up here. So here I have another project. Maybe I want to add it to this one. And you guys can continue to do that. And you can type into it if you don't want to hit the drop down menu, and it'll pull up the first option. And then let's see what we got. So here's another project. So now when I save this, this conversation will actually show up in all of those additional projects. So again, just another little tip or a little trick that you guys can do if you need to do that and you just don't want to keep opening new conversations. And of course, just make sure you guys save when you do that. All right. Looks like we got a couple of chats in here. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, Brooke, can you just send me your question to support@workamajig.com and I can go over that? And it looks like you were talking about the time entering and approving it at the end of the week. Yeah, why don't you send that in and I can answer you that with that question. All right. So that pretty much covers what we're going to be doing today. Is there any other last minute questions that I can answer? Oh, okay. So somebody's asking, how do I get to the system log? So to do that, you're going to come to the magnifying glass. You're going to come to views and you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom and you have the system log. And then of course, most likely you're see entire log and log month to date, but I have some extra ones here that I've created. So again, this is just looking at 1 month. This is where you can put in a complete date range, maybe 2, 3, 4 months, and you'd be able to see what was going on. And then of course, you know, filter it by section so the report runs smoothly. The other thing down here, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of, we also have an email log. And what that does is it lists what was emailed out. So in case somebody's saying, well, I didn't get an email, you can come in here and hit search, and it'll actually tell you who sent it, to who, what date it was sent. And then what you can do is see this status message. The system will always tell you if it was sent. So if it is sent out and somebody's saying they didn't get an email, then most likely it's their email server that's holding it up. So it's not from our end. If there was an error saying that it was going out, you would see not sent or error message here. So this might be another little report that might be useful for you guys if you guys ever have issues with people not receiving emails. Okay. And of course you have filters here as well. Okay, let me see another question. Would the conversation by multiple projects be a good way to capture conversations on a campaign? No, because on the campaign itself, it has its own conversation button. So most likely you would go into the campaign itself, and let me do show all apps here. So what I mean by that is it really has its own, and that stays with everything. So if I come in here to my campaign, there is one already here. So this is the one that you would use. And then this is automatically going to link to those projects. You'll be able to see that because they're linked to the campaign. Hopefully that answered your question. Do you find many clients used plan, start, finish, or baseline, start, and finish? Seems like a lot to have both. Well, the plan starts. So what happens is if there are certain transaction preferences that are set up in your system where actual dates change the plan, If that's the case, then those dates that even though we started the project today, maybe somebody didn't start that first task till tomorrow, the actual planned start date is actually going to change for the date that it was actually started. So that's why people like to use the baseline start and finish, because it's taking a snapshot of the project on day one. And then that's when later on you go back and see both. You can set it up. If you have it set out all the time on your grid, then you guys can just set baseline so that somebody doesn't have to add those columns all the time. I don't know if you realized, but I do have certain column sets. I created column sets. Let me set cancel. Actually, we'll go here. So what I did is, do you see this little drop down menu? What I did is I created different column sets for the different types of people who might be going into a project schedule. So my creative view might be different. It might be just short, sweet, and simple, not a lot of information. But then my project managers need to have a lot more information. So I can create different column sets and say, well, my PMs need to see that baseline start, baseline complete, and have that out on their grid. So that might be one way of using that. Again, that way, if you're a project manager and you want to create these column sets, you can do that and leave those two columns out all the time for them. That way, when they open the project, it'll always be there. And then the only thing they have to do is click more, set baseline. Now to edit the column sets, that's down here. You just simply click it. You click the plus sign, you name it whatever you want. And then you're going to see all of your columns here. And then you can add new ones. You can move these up or down if you'd like. You're down here on the bottom, you're going to give access to certain groups. So if this was just for creatives, then most likely I would just, remove all of the other security groups so that they don't have access to it. And only people in the creative security group would be able to see that. And you can also click into the blue hyperlink and you can always verify what users are going to actually be able to use that column set. All right. All right. So that pretty much covers everything that we're going to cover today. Like I said, the webinar link should be available in a couple of days. Just go back to the help guide and go to past webinars and you should see that there for you. Other than that, if you do have any other questions, you can email support@workamajig.com and then we'll respond back to you with that. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.